The passengers were speaking Arabic, discussing timing, locations, and something about the package. Most Uber drivers would just drive and mind their own business. But Frank Rodriguez spoke Arabic fluently. Military intelligence had required it, and what he was hearing wasn't ordinary conversation. It was operational planning for something that would put thousands of Atlanta residents in danger. What happened next prevented one of the largest terrorist attacks on American soil since 9/11. Welcome to Unsung Heroes Stories. Before we dive into this incredible story of vigilance and heroism, tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching this video today? And if you believe heroes sometimes drive the cars we take for granted, hit that subscribe button. This story will change how you see your Uber driver. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport Terminal F, Wednesday evening, 6:47 p.m. The world's busiest airport by passenger traffic, over 100 million travelers annually passing through Atlanta's massive transportation hub. Frank Rodriguez had been driving for Uber X for 2 years, ever since retiring from his government job. At 58, he was older than most rideshare drivers, but passengers liked his professionalism and quiet demeanor. Clean car, safe driving, no unnecessary conversation. Perfect 5-star rating, over 3,000 rides. Frank's background check had cleared easily. Former government employee, clean record, excellent references. What it didn't show was that those 20 years of government service had been spent in the Defense Intelligence Agency, running covert operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. The pickup request came through his app at 6:43 p.m. Ali M. Pickup at Terminal F International Arrivals. Destination, downtown Atlanta. Standard airport fare, nothing unusual. 3 men approached his Toyota Camry, mid-20s to early 30s, carrying small duffel bags, speaking quietly in Arabic. Frank had seen thousands of international passengers over 2 years of airport pickups. Nothing about these men immediately stood out. "You are Frank?" the first man asked in accented English. "Yes, sir." "Going downtown?" "Yes, please. Peachtree Street area." The 3 men got in, 2 in back, 1 in front passenger seat. Frank started the car and began the familiar route from Hartsfield-Jackson toward downtown Atlanta. Rush hour traffic was heavy, which meant a 40-minute drive instead of the usual 25. That's when Frank heard them talking. The passengers assumed their driver didn't understand Arabic. Most American drivers wouldn't. They were wrong. Frank Rodriguez had learned Arabic during his first assignment with the Defense Intelligence Agency in 2003. Fluent in both classical Arabic and several regional dialects. For 20 years, his job had been to understand exactly what these kinds of conversations meant. "Is everything prepared for tomorrow?" the man in front asked in Arabic. "The materials arrived this morning," replied one of the men in back. "All components are ready." "And the location?" "Confirmed. Thursday afternoon, maximum crowd density." Frank's hands tightened on the steering wheel. In 20 years of intelligence work, he'd learned to recognize operational planning when he heard it. This wasn't casual conversation. It was mission coordination. "The building has multiple access points," the third man added. "Security is minimal during lunch hours." "Target building and minimal security." Frank had heard these exact phrases in terrorist communications intercepts. His DIA training was screaming warnings. Before we continue, imagine you're an Uber driver overhearing passengers plan what sounds like an attack. What would you do? Keep driving? Call police? Let us know in the comments. Frank made a subtle adjustment to his route, taking the longer path through downtown instead of the direct highway route. He needed more time to gather intelligence. "The device is concealed?" the front passenger asked. "In the briefcase. Timer set for maximum impact." Frank's blood went cold. Device, timer, maximum impact. This was unambiguous terrorist planning, and they were discussing it in his car. Frank Rodriguez had spent 2 decades conducting covert surveillance operations in hostile territory. Rule number 1. Gather as much intelligence as possible before taking action. Rule number 2. Never let targets know they've been compromised. He continued driving normally while mentally cataloging everything he heard. "The target location is confirmed for tomorrow." one passenger said in Arabic. Centennial Olympic Park during the lunch festival. Frank knew Centennial Olympic Park, Atlanta's premier downtown gathering space, surrounded by the Georgia Aquarium, World of Coca-Cola, and CNN Center. During summer festivals, the park hosted thousands of visitors daily. The package will be positioned near the fountain, another voice continued. Maximum casualties during peak hours. Frank's DIA training kicked in. These men were discussing a bombing attack on civilians in his car while he drove them to their staging location. Transportation afterward? Airport shuttle from the hotel. Flights depart at 4 p.m. before authorities realized what happened. Frank now had their target, Centennial Olympic Park, timing, tomorrow afternoon, method, explosive device, and escape plan, afternoon flights. In intelligence terms, this was a complete operational picture. But he also had a problem. These were likely armed individuals planning mass murder, sitting 18 inches behind him in Atlanta traffic. Driver, the front passenger said in English, interrupting Frank's thoughts. Change destination. Take us to the Marriott Marquis instead. Of course, sir. Frank knew the Marriott Marquis, downtown Atlanta's largest hotel, directly overlooking Centennial Olympic Park. Perfect staging location for surveillance and attack preparation. Frank Rodriguez had been in similar situations during his DIA career, but never as a civilian. In military intelligence, he'd had backup teams, communication equipment, and federal authority. Now he was a 58-year-old Uber driver with 3 potential terrorists in his car and no official authority. But he also had something the terrorists didn't know about: 20 years of experience neutralizing exactly these kinds of threats. The device is armed, one passenger asked in Arabic. Ready for deployment, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m., 1:30 p.m., Thursday. Centennial Olympic Park, lunch festival with thousands of civilians. Frank was possibly the only person in Atlanta who knew this attack was coming. Frank made his decision. At the next traffic light, he discreetly activated the voice recording app on his phone and positioned it to capture the passenger's conversation. Then, he sent a text message to a number he hadn't used in 2 years, his former DIA handler. Code Black, active threat. Send backup to Marriott Marquis downtown Atlanta. 3 subjects, possible explosive device. His former handler, Colonel Sarah Martinez, responded within 30 seconds. Frank, you're retired. What's your status? Undercover surveillance, imminent terrorist attack planned. Need immediate federal response. FBI en route. Do not engage. Maintain surveillance only. Frank had no intention of engaging 3 armed terrorists alone. But he also wasn't going to let thousands of innocent people die while waiting for federal backup. Frank pulled into the Marriott Marquis valet area and watched as his passengers exited with their duffel bags. Standard procedure required payment through the app, so no direct interaction was needed. Thank you, the front passenger said in English, then added something in Arabic that made Frank's blood freeze. Tomorrow, Atlanta will remember us. After they disappeared into the hotel, Frank immediately called his former DIA handler. Colonel Martinez, this is Rodriguez. I need immediate federal response. Frank, you've been out of the game for 2 years. Are you certain about this threat assessment? Ma'am, I spent 20 years identifying terrorist operations. These 3 men discussed specific target location, timing, method, and escape plan. This is legitimate. Details. Target, Centennial Olympic Park during tomorrow's lunch festival. Method, explosive device timer activated. Timing, 1:30 p.m. Subjects, 3 Middle Eastern males, late 20s to early 30s, staying at Marriott Marquis. Colonel Martinez was quiet for a moment. Frank, if you're wrong about this, if I'm wrong, some tourists get unnecessarily questioned by FBI. If I'm right and we do nothing, hundreds of people die tomorrow. FBI counterterrorism is rolling. Do not attempt to re-engage subjects. But Frank wasn't finished gathering intelligence. 2 years of driving Uber had taught him things about surveillance that even DIA hadn't: how to be invisible in plain sight. FBI Special Agent Michael Chen arrived at Frank's location within 20 minutes, accompanied by a full counterterrorism response team. Mr. Rodriguez? I'm Agent Chen. Colonel Martinez briefed me on your background. Agent Chen, we need to move fast. These subjects discussed a 1:30 p.m. attack tomorrow. That's less than 18 hours. We've got surveillance teams positioned around the hotel. No one's leaving without our knowledge, but I need you to walk me through exactly what you heard. Frank provided a complete intelligence briefing, verbatim quotes in Arabic with English translations, operational details, suspect descriptions, and escape planning. Agent Chen was impressed by the thoroughness. Mr. Rodriguez, this is graduate-level intelligence gathering. You're certain about the Arabic translations? Agent Chen, I spent 2 decades intercepting communications exactly like this in Iraq and Afghanistan. These men are planning mass murder. The FBI surveillance team confirmed that all 3 subjects remained in the hotel and had made no additional contact with outside parties. Do we have legal authority to search their room? Agent Chen asked his team, not without probable cause or a warrant. Frank had an idea. Agent Chen, I recorded part of their conversation in my car. You might be able to use that as probable cause. The recording Frank had captured provided exactly the evidence FBI needed. Within an hour, federal judges had signed search warrants for the subject's hotel room, personal belongings, and communication devices. FBI tactical teams raided the Marriott Marquis hotel room at 2:47 a.m. Thursday morning. What they found confirmed Frank's intelligence assessment, detailed maps of Centennial Olympic Park, timing charts for maximum crowd density, and a briefcase containing 15 pounds of plastic explosives with a digital timer. The 3 suspects were arrested without incident. Forensic analysis revealed the explosive device was sophisticated enough to kill dozens of people and injure hundreds more. Agent Chen called Frank at 3:15 a.m. Mr. Rodriguez, we've got them. Device recovered, attack prevented. You saved a lot of lives tonight. Just glad I was in the right place at the right time. This wasn't luck, Frank. This was 20 years of training and 2 years of civilian experience combining at the exact moment we needed it. The suspects were identified as members of an international terrorist cell that had been planning attacks on soft targets across multiple American cities. Atlanta was their first planned operation. FBI discovered that the cell had been surveilling Centennial Olympic Park for weeks, timing security patterns and crowd flows. Their attack would have occurred during the Children's International Festival, an event specifically designed to bring families to downtown Atlanta. The story never made national news. FBI counterterrorism operations rarely receive public disclosure, especially when they're successful. Most Atlanta residents never knew how close they'd come to experiencing a terrorist attack. Frank Rodriguez continued driving for Uber as if nothing had happened. His passengers had no idea their driver had recently prevented one of the largest terrorist attacks in American history. But 3 weeks later, Frank received a phone call that would change his retirement plans. Mr. Rodriguez, this is Director Patricia Williams from DIA. We have a proposition. Ma'am, I'm retired. I drive Uber now. Frank, your actions in Atlanta demonstrated that retirement doesn't eliminate the need for your skills. We're developing a new program, Civilian Intelligence Assets for Homeland Security Threats. The program Director Williams described would position former intelligence officers in civilian jobs throughout major American cities, not as active agents, but as trained observers who could recognize and report legitimate threats. You mean more people like me driving Uber and watching for terrorists? Among other things, former DIA, CIA, and military intelligence officers working as taxi drivers, hotel clerks, airport security, retail workers, anywhere that foreign nationals might inadvertently reveal operational planning. Frank thought about the thousands of international passengers he'd driven over 2 years. How many conversations had he not understood? How many threats might have gone undetected? Director Williams, if I accept, I keep driving Uber. Perfect cover. You're already established, well-reviewed, and have access to international travelers. We'd just be providing additional resources and coordination. Frank Rodriguez accepted the position and now serves as a civilian intelligence asset for the Department of Homeland Security while maintaining his cover as an Atlanta Uber driver. His work has contributed to preventing 4 additional terrorist plots over the past year. But he still picks up passengers at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, still maintains his 5-star rating, and still drives quietly through Atlanta traffic. Because sometimes the most important battles are fought not on foreign battlefields, but in the backseats of ordinary cars by people who understand that vigilance never really ends. Most passengers will never know that their Uber driver might be the person standing between them and threats they'll never see coming. Frank Rodriguez learned that 20 years of military intelligence training doesn't become obsolete in civilian life. It just finds new missions, new ways to serve, and new opportunities to protect Americans who have no idea they need protection. So tell us, have you ever wondered about the background of your Uber driver, taxi driver, or other service workers? Have you encountered someone whose quiet competence suggested experiences far beyond their current job? Share their story in the comments, tell us their name, honor the veterans whose training continues to protect us in ways we'll never know. Because at Unsung Heroes Stories, we believe that heroes don't retire from protecting people. They just find new ways to serve. Subscribe if this story moved you. We share these incredible veteran stories every week. And remember, next time you get in an Uber, consider that your driver might be carrying skills earned in places where America's security depended on their ability to recognize danger before it strikes.